Oh, God. Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. I'm running out of time. But I've got to cover this. Dear God, how are we going to deal? How could we ever deal? 3 terrifying stories of how fascism is coming for us all. Tear up the floorboards and stop the beating of his fascist old heart.
I'm going to explain a couple of stories that may have made
you have a lot of explaining to do, Glenn. All right, here we go.
But if you understand the Rosetta Stone of today's world, the Great Reset, you will understand and you will see.
But what if I don't? Perhaps if someone had a book, perhaps, that they were selling that tried to convince me that behind every corner, around every bend, in every dark shadow is the Great Reset. If only someone was selling a book that was pushing that bullshit narrative that I could reference and put it on, wear it like glasses to see. I don't know who
it is coming for you.
Oh,
last night I was on the plane and I was.
Oh dear God, you were on the plane. Oh, you have your own plane?
Coming home from meeting with legislators about the Great Reset and ESG.
Yes, the scoring thing for pensions who don't want to invest in like violent regimes or fossil fuels or whatever. If they want to know, like, what standard can we use to say that this is actually helping? And if they want to know that, just wanting to know that is fascist. It's not capitalism, which is what it actually is, but okay.
And like every other person that I have met, they knew very little about it. And if you...
That's because it's your weird obsession and nobody buys it.
Don't understand this.
ESG is a score that they use in financial institutions and in investment firms that kind of... it's like your energy, social justice, and something and green score, something ESG score. I forget what the EU stands for. Yeah. This is what he's referencing. So achieve your ESG goals. In the constantly expanding world of environmental, social, and governance, you need to make meaningful progress in managing and communicating your ESG risks and opportunities. But with those diverse universe of ESG, you want to invest in things that have your priorities in environment, in social justice and governance. And so you don't want to put your money into an evil regime or into, invest in a Uyghur concentration camp by accident, do you? You don't want to invest in old technologies that are going to die when you can invest in the future, do you? So ESG is how you make those decisions. And there are a bunch of companies and hedge funds that help put together like investment papers. A white paper. Dun, dun, dun. It's not white. It's got lots of color. There's even diverse people. White paper. Pfft. This 9% of investors are not disclosing. 91% are disclosing their ESG considerations. So this is who you can, in these different countries, they target investors, data providers, what they're going to do. Here's prevalence of proprietary ESG platforms and target invest. So this is so you can invest in your environmental priorities and social, equity and that kind of stuff, and not into, you don't want to accidentally dump your money into Boko Haram, do you? All right.
This is the knockout punch. This is the knockout punch. And
is it the knockout punch? That's what I want to know. That's what we're all wondering.
Yet to walk into a room of people who really know what ESG even means. The ESG.
Well, that's because you're wandering into rooms ranting about something that you have a narrow fixation on, and you have shitty social skills.
Standards are environmental, social justice, and governance, and it will change everything in your life. Now, let me explain the Remington story. Right. And you...
The Remington story.
Understand, I'm going to give you a couple stories that'll blow your mind.
Oh, boy.
You'll get it.
Okay. Oh, boy. Okay. We've been watching this asshole for months talk about this stuff, but tonight We're going to get it. By it, I mean syphilis, apparently. Okay, here we go.
Remington Arms. They were sued by the Sandy Hook parents. Now,
yes,
we know the gun is not responsible. It's not responsible for killing. Guns don't kill people.
People kill people. Okay.
Use guns, or they use baseball bats.
Yeah, but except there's one thing. Never has a baseball
gun
bat
company
that was
will
used
fight
in,
this one
hold on.
all
Hold on.
way to the
So never has a bat flown through a wall into another room and killed someone eating cornflakes half a mile away.
Supreme Court. Why? Because if the gun company can be held responsible
for their marketing and for their sales and for their like playing footsie with the parts that would like have bump stocks and other stuff, that, you know, knowing full well that they're working hand in glove with people who can modify guns to make them illegal, they would what, please?
then they're going to probably go out of business. And I'll explain that in a second. Okay? Everybody say they'll be more responsible. No, they won't. They will go out of business. I'll tell you why.
Because asking them to be responsible is too much.
So yesterday, Remington Arms reached a settlement worth $73 million with the families of victims killed in the Sandy Hook.
Okay, then it's their fault. Why didn't they fight to the very end? Apparently, they're part of the Great Reset. To Remington?
Elementary school shooting. Now, when I first heard that, I said, excuse me, what? They reached.
You weren't able to say all those words individually. You just kind of rammed them together.
Settlement? How? Why would Remington do that?
I don't know. Obviously, they're part of the Great Reset. Clearly, they've been taken over by communists and George Soros and the Center for New American Progress. No.
Didn't make any sense until I got, to a lower altitude as we were landing, and I could Google
until you could
the board of Remington Arms, because my initial
bunch of fucking hippies
thought was, who have they put on the board that is a great resetter? Who have they put on the board of Remington Arms?
Who's on the board of Remington Arms? Al Gore. No, Al Franken. Weird Al.
And I found out then there is no Remington Arms. They're out of business. Okay, they're defunct. They were broken up into a bunch of little companies. And my next question was, then oh my gosh. Who settled? The insurance companies settled.
Right. And?
Now, what do we know about the insurance companies, the Great Reset, the gun argument? Well, we know that the government and the financial institutions in New York for sure, but it has been happening.
Well, we know I know what you mean. New York. It rhymes with new. I'm with you. Okay, New
York. But out in the open in New York, they have been pressuring banks, don't do business with any gun companies. Because that'll make us have to look into you guys, because maybe you're not trustworthy. Because we think there's some things wrong with.
Is that how the conversation went?
Companies. Okay, so they started, the financial sector started to do this before ESG. But they also.
Oh, so they didn't even need the ESG thing. This was just something they've been working on for a long time. So
pressured the insurance companies. This is too big of a risk on you. Stop insuring these people, and you will stop gun manufacturing and sales.
Well, apparently not. Remington Arms doesn't exist anymore, but they insure probably 10 other companies. So they're probably making more money after this. They obviously settled for a number that they were cool with.
So now $73 million has been settled by the insurance companies. You know,
for $180 million worth of good press. One, that they paid out, and two, that they represent gun companies. And they're like, all right, well, they'll handle it.
anybody who believes in the Second Amendment would have fought that to the Supreme Court and would have won. This can't be reversed now because it's a settlement. You can't bring it
Well, it's a civil suit. Yeah.
to the Supreme Court.
And by the way, civil suits get reversed all the time on appeal.
So what does it mean? It doesn't mean more litigation for other gun companies. It means that now insurance companies have to look at every gun company and say, are we willing to risk this? Because they're all going to be brought into.
Yeah, they're all going to be, the minute they tacitly sell a gun to someone they know to be mentally ill on purpose and provide elements of the gun to other manufacturers to demo things like bump stock so that they can expand the usage beyond the legal limit. As soon as that happens to all the rest of them, I mean, every gun company is going to be staring down the barrel, no pun intended, of 27 dead toddlers sometime
and
soon.
we may have to settle. We may have.
Huh. Terrible. Hold on. Remington Arms settles in landmark agreement. Let's see. Let's see what the Sandy Hook families announced $73 million settlement with Remington Arms and Landmark Agreement. Sandy Hook lawyer. Remington tapped into anxieties of masculinity. When the families of the 9 victims of the massacre at Sandy Hook began their lawsuit against the gunmaker of the Bushmaster AR-15 style rifle, their goal was to spare other families of the pain that upended their own lives. On Tuesday, the victims' families marked a victory in that effort with the announcement of a $73 million settlement with the now bankrupt Remington Arms, which manufactured the Bushmaster. It's a modification of the AR-15. There's some other companies that make it. They had the motivation to do whatever they could so that other families... Okay, news conference. Here we go. Settlement reached with the families of 5 children and 4 adults who were killed in the 2012 shooting. Draws on all 4 of Remington's insurers and allows the families to share thousands of pages of company documents that obtained during discovery. Provisions that legal experts and attorneys for the family say represent a landmark victory in forcing gun manufacturer to face responsibility for how it markets its products. Crucially, the settlement also provides a framework for how to pursue legal action against gun manufacturers. The plaintiffs' lawyers used a novel legal strategy, which convinced the Connecticut Supreme Court that the case could proceed despite a federal law making it difficult for such suits to be brought. Koskoff, the family's attorney, said the settlement sends a signal that they have skin in the game. Underwriting companies, Connecticut. Today's settlement is clear indication the PLCAA is not the impenetrable shield the industry wishes it could be. Tearful families, they would pay it all back if they could have their loved ones. Clearly, in 2004, Bushmaster agreed to pay $2.5 million to families of victims in the DC sniper case. So this has happened before around the Bushmaster specifically. This is this is the shit. The DC sniper. I don't remember Glenn Beck getting all bent out of shape about the Great Reset when that shit happened. Let's see. It's reckless marketing tactics that appeal to at-risk and violence-prone young men. Marketing that is targeted. So this is basically like the cigarette ads. Joe Camel is essentially the case they're making. But hey, Glenn Beck says never mind the fact that this gunmaker store agreed to pay out in sniper case. 2 survivors and the families of 6 slain victims of the 2002 sniper shootings have reached a $2.5 million settlement with the manufacturer of the Bushmaster rifle used during the attacks and the gun shop from which it had been stolen because they didn't lock it up and it's fucking dangerous. Victim's attorney said on yesterday it was the first time a gunmaker has paid damages for crimes committed with its weapons. Bushmaster Firearms Inc. of Windham, Maine paid damages for negligence leading to the criminal use of a gun. That's why it's a breakthrough of lasting significance. The Brady Group brought this lawsuit not for the victims, but for their anti-gun agenda, said Bushmaster. But yeah, so this has happened before. He didn't get bent out of shape about it then because, uh, yeah, because George Bush was president. So clearly it was
To,
just,
staff up our attorneys for anyone who's ever been killed by a gun.
well, not anyone.
First of all, gun companies, your rates for insurance have just gone through the roof. Gun stores, your insurance is going to go through the roof.
Or you could show that you take every precaution that would lower that cost. For example, not putting your guns in the windows of the store without unbreakable glass, or behind metal fixtures that they can't get past to get the gun actually out. If they did a smash and grab, for example, if you take all those precautions, I'm guessing your insurance will go down.
If they even insure you. And ESG is saying no to insurance.
No, it isn't. ESG doesn't say no or yes. It just gives somebody a score, and you can give a shit or not give a shit. And some people will intentionally invest in companies that have a low ESG score because they think they will be more profitable, because they're more cutthroat.
That is what's happening.
No, it's not what's happening.
It's an end run around the Second Amendment. It was settled by insurance companies. Insurance companies are being leaned on by the government and the banks and ESG not to do any business.
ESG is not a company, by the way. It's an assessment score that a lot of different people come up with, and they have sliding scales of what it means.
They've just allowed the rates to go through the roof and an excuse on why they can't insure gun companies or gun stores. Guarantee you that's what that story is about.
Guarantee you, no, it's not. Any more than the story from 2004 was.
Another story that broke yesterday. Big oil and the climate crisis. The fight to hold PR firms accountable. So do you remember last year the House had a hearing where they brought in all of the oil guys. They're like, "What have you done for global warming? Because you're just setting the whole planet on fire." Remember that? Well,
no, I don't remember a childish exchange like that happening. But I don't watch everything that Rand Paul does. So,
what's her name? Rhymes with baloney. Carolyn Maloney. She is the chair of the Committee on Oversight and Reform. At the end of that, she issued subpoenas to ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP America, Shell, and the American Petroleum Institute. Also, strangely, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, for documents. And the documents were regarding climate, including marketing, advertising, and public relations material. Now, here's the story in Bloomberg. See if any of this is answered with the Great Reset.
Oh, I bet it will be. I mean, not in reality, but in your head.
Campaigners say this step foreshadows a showdown between lawmakers and PR executives, with the latter expected to be called on as witnesses to the fossil fuel industry's climate disinformation campaign. The industry's climate disinformation campaign. You hear how Bloomberg is already phrasing this? If you're against global warming, you are engaged in a disinformation campaign. I go back.
Well, no, if you're against global warming, you would be taking measures to avoid it or stop it as best you can. If you're pro-global warming or you don't believe it exists, which I think is what he means by against, then if you work for an oil company, for example, you might be lying to consumers saying you're doing stuff and you're not. See, that's in the area where false advertising is illegal. Because BP could come out and go, "Hi, climate change is bullshit. And if you fill up your truck at our place, we'll give you a free pair of dice that's got an asteroid on it and some other shit, and a bunch of ways the Earth could be destroyed other than climate change. For every fill up, we'll give you a sticker that says green this," and they would get clients out of it. But when you come out and you go, "We at BP are doing everything we can to clean up the world," and you're not, you're bullshitting your consumers.
To the Department of Homeland Security. What's the biggest threat of terrorism? People who are engaged in disinformation campaigns.
No, that's not at all what that says. I think the biggest threat to our national security right now is people like you who can't fucking read.
All you need to say to anybody who's astute, you're engaged in, your company is engaged in a disinformation campaign, and you're like, no, I'm just a PR company. We handle everyone. Well,
yeah, but they craft the message, and if the message is a lie, then they are. All right, let's see what the case was, though.
Do you? The reason they've been, quoting the article, the reason PR companies have been so invisible for so many years is by design. Mm-hmm. Their strategic power has come from remaining behind the scenes. And I think that's one reason we have mistakenly see these firms as neutral. Wow.
Well, apparently Glenn thinks they're neutral.
Okay. So now a PR firm, you better be careful who you take on as a client. Or you...
That's true. Or people might judge you if you take on, say, Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein or Prince Andrew or R. Kelly, or you might, it's almost like we're going to start hearing stories about how PR firms stop representing people because of their behavior.
Will be deemed disinformation. You better be...
Well, no, I mean, if you're hired specifically as a disinfo campaign company, yeah.
Careful, not as an insurance company, to take on gun companies, because you could be sued. And if you do, I'm not sure the bank is going to give your company a loan, because you're entering risky territory by insuring these people. It's probably a bad bet.
Because they're loosey-goosey with their guns and they let people display them in glass windows in the front of the store without plexiglass to stop smash and grabs with a violent weapon. They don't treat them like violent weapons. They'll let anybody who walks into the store handle the thing without a lock on the door. They'll hand people ammo and the gun at the same time. Might raises their premiums. Sure.
This is the Great Reset. This is not capitalism. Anyone who says this is capitalism...
Sure it is. Market forces.
You need to tell them firmly, no, this, in their own words, is to destroy and replace capitalism. This is fascism. This is not the free market. These are people who believe...
Well, the market itself can determine, for example, that, like, if a company continues to put out, like, there's a bunch of hamburger companies, and one of them constantly has E. coli, the public and the rest of the companies that put out hamburgers could sue to get this one shut down because it's fucking it up for everybody.
They know better, and they lean on people. You're going to do it our way, or you're going to be out. We give you one more story.
Oh, that qualified as the second one? Fucking hell.
And I can't find it. That sucks.
Well, I mean, I maybe somebody reset your fucking chalkboard. That's so funny.
And I can't find it. That sucks. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, because I'm looking at the deal. I'm seeing one that just says avocados.
Oh, thanks for coming up, patron. Bless you. Thanks so much.
Like, what is that? Okay, avocados.
What?
Avocados have now been stopped because somebody in inspections was yelled at by a Mexican as they were inspecting and it was so bad, it went all the way to the White House. This guy was yelled at and treated poorly and unfairly. And so the White House said, hey, you better not treat our inspectors and say naughty things to them. We're stopping all avocado imports. That's literally what they say it's caused by.
This should be fun. Mexican president accuses U.S. of inventing plot to ban his country's avocados. There is something else behind it. Avocados, attack avocado. Okay. Mexican President Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador suggested Joe Biden and his administration had conspired to ban the importation of Mexican avocados. Oh, I thought they were stopping all avocados. Stopping. Okay. In an attempt to boost sales for U.S. farmers. What? Glenn, you have to stop this. If this is true, this is terrible. The Biden administration is trying to help. Truth is, there is always something else behind it. An economic, a commercial interest, or political attitude. The Biden administration don't want Mexican avocados to get in the United States, right? Because it would rule in the United States because of its quality. Yes, the superior avocado. The U.S. banned Mexican avocados after an American health inspector in Jalisco was reportedly threatened for blocking the shipment of the fruit. Oh. I thought he just said that's not just saying something naughty. He wasn't sexually harassed with an avocado pit. Following a security incident, verbal threat, involving our employees, plural, the suspension will remain in place for as long as necessary to ensure the appropriate actions are taken to ensure the safety of the APHIS personnel working in Mexico. Details of the incident were not immediately clear. Michoacan, Mexico's top avocado producing state and the only one certified to export to the United States, has long had security issues linked to problems with drug gangs. Mexican President Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador said on the Monday that authorities are looking at the U.S. decision and suggest there may be political motivations behind the suspension. Speaking at a regular government news conference, truth is always, because it's the part we got. The Biden administration has recently brought a number of complaints about Mexican enforcement of labor rights and environmental standards under the updated U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement on Trade. By the way, that's Trump's agreement, USMCA. The Biden administration using it, and you'd think Glenn would be excited. The United States also voiced concerns about government regulations in its telecoms and energy sectors. But he said the Mexican relationship with the U.S. government were very good. So literally, the reason we're stopping avocados, they're done. No more guacamole for you, except for those shitty, inferior American avocados. What a bunch of garbage.
A spat between a Mexican and a U.S. government official.
A spat? Oh, yes, spat. Noun, argument where one party threatens the life of another by saying they could get their buddy who's in a drug gang to kill them if they don't okay a shipment of avocados from the only place they're allowed to ship avocados in Mexico, because the other places have already been disqualified.
Really? Really?
Yes, really.
The president of Mexico says, no, that's not it.
Oh, well, I would always take the word of another president over our own. I mean, that's just what you do, right?
We can't sell avocados to the United States until we bend our will to Joe Biden on environmental issues.
No. They threatened the life of the inspectors if they didn't okay shipments that are not okay, that don't pass U.S. standards. Unless you want Americans eating rotten or diseased food.
That one makes a little more sense than, oh, Dad, he called me a name.
Yeah, nobody's saying that. They threatened his fucking life or her life. They don't say it. And by the way, not just a single person, the actual staff.
This is fascism.
Avocado fascism. It's fascimole. Seriously. Seriously? Seriously.